we're also looking at that goal scenario. I mean, you look back and you're asking yourself, how could we have lost out on this opportunity? It would have been a different story today and a different conversation if that goal held. I'm talking about Majid Ashimeru. I mean, would give him credit for the execution. However, Königsdörffer and the positioning. And the criticism is, at this stage of your life in professional football, you shouldn't be caught dead, ever, in such situations.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, I mean, every player gets caught offside. He was caught offside. I don't even think that was his biggest problem on the day itself. I think Königsdörffer's biggest problem on the day was that his coach set him up to fail. And in all honesty, and Achu mentioned it only slightly, I do not think, for example, that where Königsdörffer played yesterday, he had ever played there in his entire professional career. He's a wide player, at best a second striker. Number 10 and being asked to be the one to dictate a certain play and link attack to defense, midfield to attack, that is simply not his job. So, in terms of team selection, yes, I think lots of people had cried for Königsdörffer to be given an opportunity. But on the biggest day of his career, and this guy had never played for the national team in a competitive fixture before. The first time ever when he has to play for the national team in a competitive fixture, the coach starts him in a position that he is not familiar with.
But he almost scored.
In the position, yes.
Well, it was the rebound that resulted.
He did almost score. And that wasn't even his closest chance. That would not have stood, but that was a humble. It would not have stood. His clearest chance was a Gideon Mensah cross to him that he missed, left-footed. That was his clearest chance.
Sure.
Because that ball that hit the goalpost, if he had scored, it would have been ruled out for offside. It clearly came off his arm. Okay? But I'm saying that his overall contribution in the game was very, very limited, very inefficient. And if you would permit me, I have a certain graphic just to show you exactly Königsdörffer's contribution in this particular match. So, if you don't mind, I will show you what Königsdörffer's heat map looks like as far as his entire game contribution is concerned. So, if we would just... Now, this is Königsdörffer. He was asked to play in a number 10 position. Okay, his job, primarily, his most operative areas should have been here, at this part of the pitch. But look at where Königsdörffer finds himself, Nat. Where does he find himself mostly? On the wings. Very wide. That's why yesterday, Ashimeru seemed to have been struggling. And Ghana was overpowered in midfield an awful lot. And it didn't look like we had a third midfielder.
The overpowering you're talking about happened very, very early in the game.
Very early in the game. Yeah. And that's because instead of him to be at that third midfielder that drops deep to help the other two, he found himself drifting into his more natural positions. And what did I say earlier about his more natural position? It's wide. And the heat map doesn't lie. Look at all his touches. Very wide. And a few touches from inside the box. And this black dot you see here was the big chance that he missed around the penalty area. So this was a big problem. Okay, so he's not connecting the defense to attack. He's not connecting the midfield to attack. He's basically found himself having to drift wide and occupying positions that were already, overcrowded. Whereas his most important areas, per the definition of his role, should have been in the middle of the park, helping those other two. But we didn't get that from him.
And that bit is also very important because
it's essential.
When you take away Königsdörffer, you've essentially taken away the protective cover that the two central midfielders.
Exactly.
So you find many scenarios where Ashimeru Majid is being dragged into the wide areas because he can sense the danger. And that is the natural instinct of the midfielders. Once he realizes that the nearest player does not have the cover needed, he will step in. He does that, acres of space in behind him. Same goes for Baba Idrisu.
And so you realize that we were very overpowered in midfield, and that was largely due to the deployment of Königsdörffer and where they played him. And Chris Hughton didn't help anybody with the substitution. Because when he brought on Andre Ayew to do that exact same job, because as part of the jobs of a number 10, your job is to help the forward players lead the press. Where was that energy going to come from? And we'll get to his substitutions in a bit. Now, yesterday, so I felt that Königsdörffer was always set to fail right from the beginning. Now, let's move to his contribution. And the numbers don't lie in terms of his actual contribution in the game, in touches and in passes. In the entire game before his substitution, the number 10, who is supposed to be the axis of the team's complete possession, only had 17 touches of the ball and completed 4 passes. 4 passes for the entire duration of the time that he was on the pitch. He lost possession 4 times. He had no key pass in the game, and he missed 1 big opportunity. This is a performance of a player that was completely lost. Is it his fault? Absolutely not. He didn't start himself, and even if he wanted to start himself, or he could start himself, he would not have started himself where Chris Hughton played it.
What for me was problematic was that after about a quarter of an hour, it became evident that he had too much space to cover when he went out of possession. And when he had the ball, the support system simply did not exist. So whenever he gets the ball, you realize that he tried to swivel around the opponent or try to dribble and then take 2 or 3 touches before he gets close to the nearest player. And that also points to another structural problem, the spacing between our players, even when in possession. It is not possible to get any kind of creativity in the final third if your best creator, by definition in that game, is so far removed from the other players that he's supposed to combine with.
There you go. And in the past, we have been blessed with very good midfielders or even defensive midfielders that could actually do the job. Yesterday's game and Baba Idris's performance highlighted yet again our deficiency in that position. Let me just show you another graphic highlighting Baba Idris's performance. And it's so appalling for DM, for holding midfielder. Look at this. Baba Idrisu, for a DM yesterday, did not win a single tackle in the entire match. He had 50 touches of the ball, but he didn't win a single tackle. And that's why yesterday you saw we seemed to have been under pressure an awful lot of the time. He lost possession 8 times, and one of them is memorable because it was on the edge of his own box. It was definitive. On the edge of his own box, he's completely lost his mind. He's out of touch with what's happening. He takes another 1 touch, 2 touches of the ball, and the opposition player comes from behind him to win possession, and he fouls him in a very, very dangerous area. Ground duels for our DM, he only won 1 out of 4 attempted. He can't pass the ball long. So even accurate long balls, that is one of the, you see, so when we analyze even teams, a lot of the modern DMs, part of their job is to be able to do that one switch pass, one long ball into the forward players that could easily create space. He attempted 4 of those, he only got 1 correct. So the passing isn't great, the tackling isn't great. So what exactly did he do in the middle of the park?
The irony about Baba's performance is that holding midfielders are risk averse. So they play a lot of voluminous passes which are safe. And so you'd find that often when you strike the average of their percentages, they very on few occasions misplace passes. But if you're making safe passes and you're still misplacing them, there's a problem. Because presumably those safe passes are such that the distance between you and the player is so short, it takes away the risk of you actually being able to misplace the pass, right? And often there is no opponent between you and that player. But Baba Idrisu somehow manages to misplace these passes. And the other thing for me, which even indicts him the more, is the timing of the tackles and the fact that he can't seem to win these tackles. And sometimes he doesn't make them at all. If viewers would remember, Ghana versus Comoros a few months ago, he didn't seem perturbed. He just looked on nonchalantly, and then we conceded that goal. It is worrying that for a holding midfielder, what gives you value or any kind of credit is your ability to stop play and then those simple, safe passes that allows the team to breathe. Because if you keep misplacing the passes, what it means is that the opponent gets the ball and then it comes right back to the team, so the team is under more pressure. Baba Idrisu invites more pressure than he prevents.
Actually,